other way. Better. 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 Well, here we go. Mr. T, thank you for joining me. Man, I'm burning up sitting here in this corner. I don't know why the heat is so intense over here with me, but I had to turn the heat off for a little while. My goodness, burning up over here. Well, this is the Chocolate Mountain Show. I am your host. 8 Wind is timeless. I am the holder of the continuous ball game of the Hero Twins. I am the Galactic Daddy-O. I'm sitting on my terrace pyramid galactic patio. So welcome one and all who are ready to funk. Funkadelic. How is your funk? Oh. All right. Yeah, it was a good decision not to go to travel today. It was too damn cold. My phone is about to die. It's still extremely cold out there. I had to go pick up my son from work. So it's -4 still. -2. So it actually got a little warmer. It actually got warmer. But by tomorrow morning at 7 a.m., it'll be -9. Wow. It's going to be like that all week. All week cold. All week cold. Read my soul. Ha ha ha. Yes, second one. Thank you for the nice words. Talk about bullshit ass game. There you go. Shada'ak. I agree. Hey, strong discernment. Las Vegas got me on the over. I got hit on the over too. I only won the game. I lost. Hey, Crazy Sarge. I lost. I lost on the over as well, but I won on the game, and I had a bunch of personal bets. You won 476. I only won a couple hundred, so you won more than I did. I won about 230, something like that. So wasn't much, but I was looking. If I could have got that over, I'd have made about $500 if I'd have got the over. So I guess we all look. We all. That's how the gamblers won. I mean, honestly, the gamblers raked in tonight because everybody picked Kansas City, and I mean everybody, and they made a killing. They made it, and I think if you looked at the way people bet, people was betting on the over as well. If you didn't see it after this trying eyes, why I shut is true. Yeah, exactly. Well, let me read this right quick. Well, one of my Facebook friends wrote, and I mean, it's not that what she said was wrong, because what she said was right. That's why I had to pass it on. And there's a couple of extra things I added because there's a couple names I missed that I just picked up. It's on mine, or I think it was on mine. Let's see who I put it on. Yeah, this is what she wrote. And this chick is a doctor. And I'm no disrespect calling her chick, but she's a doctor. They literally recreated hell in that stadium. It was right in our faces. It is more and more flagrant because people keep blowing things off. The negative energy stared us right in the face and laughed during the halftime show. I need to anoint my home after that broadcast. And I put 22 total sacrifices during the biggest blood ritual of the year. And ain't what she said was wrong with the black and red, because this is the funny thing about the black and red. That wasn't the colors. The colors was yellow. And so normally, like with Katy Perry, she came out. When she did her rituals, it was the same colors as the color of the game. That game was red. So they held this back a little bit. They held these colorings back because this was not the Super Bowl color. Again, if you look up the Super Bowl number, you see the yellow was the color. So they threw this in. So it was a good trick that they put on us. As I mentioned, there was a couple more names that happened today. Actually, since I stopped broadcasting a few hours ago, there's two more names to be added. Damn, I didn't put the other part. What did I miss? Okay. Pedro. Okay, so I said again, I think somebody helped me with this one. Lou Hill was the Texas Rio coach, was 56. We get George Schultz yesterday. But since the broadcast stopped, baseball people will know this name. The name was Pedro Gomez. I know a lot of people, if you ain't really into sports like that, you might not know who Pedro Gomez is. But this is a cat. I think his people are actually from Cuba. But he's a big baseball analyst. Been with ESPN, just been a baseball analyst most of his life. But he just died at 58 today. And then I didn't write the rest of this. There was a guy named Frank Shockwitz, and I must have got distracted who he is and how he was connected. I don't think that was from Zach's stuff. Or maybe that was from Zach's stuff. I think maybe Zach wrote that, came up with that name. Let me see. Oh, yeah, he was Make-A-Wish dude, and this is from Zach. So the Make-A-Wish guy, I don't really means must be the dog in the hall. Make-A-Wish. I don't know. That's kind of iffy about the Make-A-Wish dude. I don't know. I guess Make-A-Wish is kind of popular. Oh no, he wouldn't be on there. Okay, he died already. He died, so he wouldn't be on there. He wouldn't be on there because he died January 24th, excuse me. So yeah, he wouldn't be on there. So it's only 22. But this is more than what died during when the Eagles won the Super Bowl. But with the high sacrifice deaths, we do tend to see underdogs win. So I think that's one thing. We see the more deaths, it seems. And then the way they made it, the lower seed beats everybody and gets in there. I mean, it couldn't be more fixed if we wanted to. A unique breed, King Kane. Thank you for joining me. Chiefs are done. Mark my words. Draco, I wouldn't be surprised. Mahomes was a machine the whole year. He did not score once. His performance was not believable. Check down on dig routes the whole game. Exactly. And then again, Hill dropped the ball because of the grip gloves pressure we put on him. Because remember what we were seeing all year, when they was getting them drops, it was hitting them in the face mask. What did Hills do? And even the announcer said that's a catch Hill made all year. But see, if you don't think our work makes a difference, that touchdown drop to Hill, because right now they have to disprove grip gloves. And so we know that the gloves was turned off because of the fact that it hit Hill in the face. And that's what we've been seeing. When the gloves is on, they catch it. When the gloves is off, it be hitting them in the face for some reason. Whatever attraction they start up, when it hits them in the face, they turn them gloves off. And we've seen it time after time. Again, we catch it with Hill. He didn't throw down. Mahomes wouldn't stay in the pocket. He was too quick to bail, taking the sack instead of throwing the ball away. And again, I made money on it, but if you looked at it, 8 penalties to 1. The penalty that gave them the touchdown before halftime was ridiculous. What did I say during the game? When they bailed him out, I said they done bailed him out because incomplete, turning the ball over, or had to punt, or kick a field goal, but no. And then the lining up off sides on purpose. Like really, where you lined up, you was going to get that extra little bit. That's on purpose. It's just like we saw when the Chiefs had Brady and them beat, and dude, what was it? The defensive end forward lined up on purpose. He lined up off sides on purpose. So same thing again. Same thing over again. We see the purposeful throw-in of the game. I'm definitely going back to those penalties. I'm making a video on it. Do it because 8 penalties to 1. You can't say that's fair. It doesn't. Like even flipping a coin, you had greater odds than one team having 8 penalties. That holding penalty that they gave in the ball before the field goal, I mean, that was ridiculous. That was a terrible call. Then we saw blocks in the back. They didn't call on the Bucks. Okay, what do I do at noon and you come in here every day? Why? Why is this becoming a habit of you interrupting me?
Because they eat lunch at like 8.
I asked you an hour ago, did you want to eat? And what did you say? And see, you turn that comes back on. See, when you open that thing up, that comes back on and my microphone picks it up. I mean, I just don't understand why. You're full of shit.
What are you eating?
What? Cigar? You want to eat this cigar?
I thought it was a beef stick.
It don't look like no beef stick.
Yeah, it does.
No, my son of mine is disrespectful.
I literally
Very disrespectful.
Oh my God.
I offered him food. I cooked food. I offered him food an hour ago. Then he waits.
Bro, I
He
ate
goes
at
in the
work
fridge,
before you picked me
turns
up.
my fridge back on because my fridge, the motor will come on,
Oh
and
my
you
God.
just disrespectful. You
Bro,
do this on purpose.
I literally ate before
No,
you picked me
I
up.
offered to cook you.
I ate before you picked
Okay,
me
then
up.
that was 2 hours ago. Why are you hungry again?
I ate before you picked me
Yeah,
up.
you're just an asshole. Get that belt. No, I don't need no belt. Beef stick. Yeah, this looks like a beef stick.
Yeah.
This slobbed on thing. So you got full off 2 oranges, huh?
No, but you're complaining, so I'll just wait till you're done.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go too long.
I need something to last me.
Whatever. Enough is enough. Yeah, he is. But yeah, does he watch your stream? No, not really. He didn't even watch the stream he was in. Yeah, beef sticks. He was like, I want one. That's why I was about to hand it to him with all this spit on it. No, he don't really watch. I doubt he watched the one where he was on it. Because I was just thinking the other night I was irritable, but today I ain't irritable. It's just, you can't make this a habit. You know, I come on here. I offered, before I cooked food earlier, and before I put the food up, I asked him, do you want something to eat? He said no. Then I get all ready, and then he comes in interrupting. But that's all right. We'll get over it. But yeah, break down the penalties for sure, especially that holding penalty at the end. Because technically, yes, holding can be called on any play. But typically, with the ball, with that receiver being so far out and it really wasn't going to him at all, that's overlooked. And that wasn't a good call at all. We see that was a call to help them. Now, Mahomes, he did his part. Let's be honest. He did his part, holding the ball, not throwing it away, running out when he had time to throw it. So, again, we saw the supreme shaming. Remember, at the end of the game, they kept a big board on him, and he wouldn't even look up. Look, now, how many times when players is on the big board, national TV, don't they look up? But it was shaming. So it was shaming, that's all. Shaming for the coach, shaming for, what's his name, Bellamy, shaming him too. Because it make people say, well, that's why we haven't hired him yet. So all those shamings. T-Bull, the pass interference, exactly. What if your son is jealous that you get at least 20? He ain't jealous of that. He's just an asshole. That's all. My son is an asshole. First half Bucks punt and it bounces off a Buck shoe. They said it went out of bounds. 0 replays. That's right. 0 replays. 0 replays. Challenges too. I just like the pass interference on Evans when Evans just clearly trips over his own feet. That was really bad too. That was really bad. But the dude lined up offside on the field goal. I mean, let's be honest. He lined up offside. There's no way to get around that. He knew. And as I mentioned, the same way Ford did. Ford, just in case it was an interception, Ford jumped. So we see these kind of purposeful mistakes. So, but again, I think we've showed enough of what the fix is and the system is, and we look even calling out the plays and looking at the defense. Again, is it believable that they rushed 4 all night, played zone? Zone is an easy thing to break. You just seems. But what do we see over and over again? Kelsey. Like no one else he could throw to. Kelsey. And then why didn't Bell play? This would have been a perfect night for Bell, where you want a back you could swing to and it could get you some yards. Why didn't he play? He was listed active. But why didn't he play? Matter of fact, Bell's injury was worse than number 25's injury for Kansas City. 25 was injured worse than Bell. And 25 came back in play. Number 25 from SMU or SLU. What is it? SMU? No, that's not right. For the Oklahoma or Louisiana school. SMU, something like that. LSU. Yeah, the guy that went there, that back for Kansas City. He had a worse injury and he played tonight. So it was a lot of I just tripped on myself. No pass interference. Exactly. That field goal callback was so obvious. It was. NFL showed it's true tonight. The machine is faced that halftime show. I've been really trying to think of that's a character too. It'll hit me what character that is because I was looking at a bunch of pictures trying to figure that out. But that was a character it looked like jocks over their faces too. That's one thing. It kind of looked like jock straps, but it is some character, and it's not anime. It's a that was had his face bandaged like that and was the killer in some slasher movie. So to come to me, or if anybody else figured it out. Fournette looked good, Valerie. He had a good game. Bell is a good receiving back. Exactly, strong discernment. But Fournette, Valerie, Fournette looked good. He looked real good. When he knocked 21 off him and he knocked that linebacker back, Gronk will get a lot of coverage today, too. They say he was the best wide receiver tight end ever. Yeah, he's nowhere near better than Jerry Rice. But you could see, like that first touchdown I called, even the second touchdown, you could see how it was set up. He's not fast. He's not separating like he used to. He ain't running by safeties anymore. But all of a sudden, he's open. And you notice he wasn't getting a lot of passes, but he was getting those. He got his chance at redemption. Yeah, he did. Yep. They look like mummies to me. Yeah, he's Gronk's not fast, but they highlighted Gronk. You see when what they was doing. Again, the whole ritual was shaming Belichick too. Let's keep that in mind. The shaming ritual was to shame Belichick as well. It's showing that they didn't need Belichick. So we see how they was bailing him out. Their drives was done and they bailed him out. But that's what they've done Brady his whole career. He's always been bailed out like that. There's been worse games where they helped him. Again, the Tuck rule. Like one of my friends went to Michigan, and Brady's quite a bit younger than him and myself. And he had a picture of Tom Brady playing at Michigan. I'm like, when did Greasy get hurt? What action did they get that from? Because Tom was a bench rider at Michigan. Let's be honest. He was a bench rider. Greasy was the quarterback, and there was a freshman that came in. And I think for a while, till the freshman got hurt, he put both of them on the bench. I thought it was Drew Henson, but maybe he's not old enough. But that's who I thought was the freshman that put them both on the bench. And I could be wrong. I figured that too. Belichick would be fired if he doesn't win because I know they are like that. Could have been us. Yeah, definitely. By that one penalty by the goal line, it would have been fourth down. But they threw a flag for a bullshit. Yes, Draco, exactly. They threw a flag for the pass interference. Yep. Drew Henson. Yeah, James. I thought Drew Henson was a freshman when Greasy and Brady were seniors. I thought Henson came in, and Henson started some games, and I think he got hurt, and so Greasy ended up, because I won't say Henson put them both on the bench. I could be wrong. The Weeknd is Canadian, so they are shaming a Black American artist, and Drake run at it. Interesting. Mahomes was one of the running and throwing incomplete passes. Yeah, bailing out. It was a prime example where right before halftime, all he had to do was stand there. And little pressure, he bails out. That's what rookies do. He's been in there long enough knowing that you hold it. But what was he doing? Spinning out, coming out. Where it was one instance, he had to stay in there. Wouldn't do it. So we see. And you see, they had his daddy before the game. I kept asking my friend, I was like, is that Pat Senior? Yeah, I don't know what happened to Pat Senior, but he looking kind of rough these days. Like I don't know, like he drank a little too much. I mentioned that in the chat. They shamed Belichick to show they didn't need him. Okay, that's true. That's what it was this year. That's absolutely what it was. Shaming of Belichick. Mahomes was definitely dumbed down on this one. He didn't scramble and held the balls for long. Exactly, he wasn't. Yeah, but the game plan. Look at the offensive game plan. They weren't running. They was putting Kelsey in them positions to get all them passes instead of inviting everyone else, especially zone. They ran zone. Matter of fact, there was a play where it was cover 2, and it was a cover 2 pass, and the receiver didn't quit running or something. But I mean, that's how plain they was doing it. At some points, they was giving cover 2 looks, and you ain't beating a zone. But again, when you got zone, you run the backs in creative ways. It was nothing creative that Kansas City did as an offense. There was nothing new, nothing creative. What we had one. Did Hill run maybe one reverse? No, matter of fact, they didn't run it with Hill. They ran it with the running back. Remember, they put the running back in motion, and they swung him back, and he went for no gain or back to the yard of scrimmage. That was the only time they ran that play. And usually Hill is the one that gets that. But they ran it with the running back. So it was too predictable. Because when the running back went in motion, when he circled back, you saw the guard pull. So that tells the linebackers right there to start coming up. It's more than likely a pitch because you saw the guard pull. So he swings back, the guard pulls. That's their read. So everybody's coming up. Man, maybe a halfback pass or something, but there was nothing creative about their offense. And then holding Bell out, I don't understand it. I don't understand why Bell was held out. He was moving towards the blitz. Yeah, he was moving towards the blitz. King came. Mahomes was definitely dumbed down. He was moving towards the blitz. The Weeknd had the dark man characters, yeah. Belichick, you think he'll make it back? Depending on what quarterback they get. And funny thing I saw today was they said that Dak, they wasn't close in negotiations. NFL corny like that. I don't see Tyreek Hill with the ball all game. Exactly. They didn't run any kind of reverses or anything. I mean, it wasn't a very creative game. It wasn't a very creative game plan for Andy Reid and Bellamy. I mean, it wasn't creative. Halftime show there. Yeah, we was talking about that, Rivers. Yep, very. Score was 24-7. Chiefs spanked the Bucs in the regular season just to set up this performance in the Super Bowl. And again, I'm the only one that pointed out Pat Mahomes did the fumble play. He did the fumble play in that game, and that was a clear reference to Brady's whole career. So they did a little bit of everything on this one. I want to see how the ratings are, though, because a lot of people are pissed off about that halftime shit. That shit was very satanic. Tonight showed me Brady don't beat people. The other teams lose the game, and it was bad tonight. It really was. It was noticeable. It was noticeable. I mean, 8 penalties to 1 is not a normal game. That's not normal. That's showing you, because I was pointing out the blocks in the backs, the holdings, and the same little cheap calls. Even ESPN called the holding on Mike Evans. He called it what did he say? Nickel dimer or cheap. Not a good call. So we were seeing it all night. And like I said, I won money. So, but I'm just saying, looking at it as a product, I bet. But you know what? I'll say this: the commercials was good until the end. They was all pretty much good commercials. And I don't know, did anybody watch Queen Latifah? Queen Latifah being the equalizer. Remember, that was a TV character that kicked ass. And all of a sudden, she's going in there kicking ass. Raiders Chiefs. It wasn't rigged. The Chiefs wouldn't be as good as they were this season. Exactly. The halftime show showed Jesus falling down, symbolizing Brady becoming the white Jesus. Now there was you know what will go with that? Something I didn't catch is when I watched on the replay of Sports Center, and maybe I did say something about it because they gave, like, when everybody came out, there was a point where behind Future was a white light. And maybe I commented on it again during the game, but they put that white light right behind it. So they showing you what the white light is. That's something like the witches I'm friends with. They were like, well, you know, that's not of the light. Yeah, you don't want the light. Just like when the Pats played the Rams, they held back against Brady. Yes, very much so, PJ. They scored on every penalty. It's Super Bowl let them down. Yes. By the second quarter, Chiefs players knew they were handing the Bucs the game. You couldn't see them stop trying as hard. Well, that long run, the run, what was the run to the right side of the field where they quit? That was Fournette, right? Fournette ran that run and got a touchdown, and they quit on about the 5-yard line, not try to tackle them at the 1 or 2. They gave up there. Just like we saw last year with the San Francisco game, with number 31 ran the long touchdown at the end. And we saw the San Francisco's players give up. It was almost the exact same thing. They gave up. Honey Badger didn't try to tackle that big man on the 2-3 yard line. King said the announcers were gassing Brady. Yeah, they was. But they do that every time he played. Remember the streaker in the game? I thought he had on shorts, though. Didn't he have on shorts? It looked like he had some kind of shorts on. They Eat Local commercials was not satire. The one with Cardi B, terrible. Yeah, I saw that one. Kane, I watched it. Chiefs' weapons are better than Raiders. Mahomes and Andy Reid body language made it even more obvious. Those cornerbacks make the Chiefs wide receivers look good. I think you mean the other way around. Falcons would be in the playoffs if it wasn't rigged. They got Ridley and Jones. They hurt Ridley, though. Remember, Ridley was hurt. When do you think the public would take the NFL seriously if Brady? And you know what? ESPN just put that right before I was coming on. You must have watched that too. You must have saw them say that because, homie, you must have saw them say that in ESPN because right before I turned off and Kate sat over here, they said the same thing. I was thinking Yogi Berra, but ESPN said Russell at 11. Yogi Berra would appear with his age to be more realistic, but again, they letting this old cat keep going. It's like it's not believable anymore. He didn't throw any deep balls. The one to Evans was the longest one he threw all night. So think about it like this. What is he, 44, 45? You got one long throw in you all night. you know, it's like you got one time you can just gun it. But the rest of them throws wasn't long. They was dinking and dunks. So Romo was dropping the scripts. Yep. Tiger Strong. Cardinals also. Yeah, I think he has shorts on. Yeah, I think he has shorts on too. Just like a Rock and Austin, no matter who wins, the WWE wins. There you go. The shield protected. There you go. That's right. The NFL. And that's why they like controversy, because they want to keep this alive. Remember, that's how they keep it alive. You keep the idea of it alive. The referee calls. They know people are going to keep talking about that. That's why the sooner people say, forget about it, the sooner No, he didn't. Oh, hell. Oh. Yep. And so that's what keeps it alive. They want that. The longer you can talk about it, the longer it stays alive. So it lives on its own. And so it's selling for them. It's selling for them. See the Raiders in the Super Bowl unless that they make moves. Raiders, yeah. And they're gonna let fans come back. They are gonna let fans come back because one thing you have to understand is the pro sports team have a lot of friends too, a lot of politician friends, and they're only gonna be hit for so long before they start fighting back with their lobbying and everything. So that's one thing to look at tonight is how soon fans come back. They're already talking about putting a bubble of the NCAA because they're not going to miss another season. What I want to say, far as so we're going to see fans. What's going to be interesting is we got all these the Black college games or HBC games are coming on in the spring, so we're going to see a lot of spring teams play. So I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing fans in those games. They've been doing that his whole career. Let the referees make controversials and let Brady get all the lucky breaks. Make it look real. There you go, homie. You got to take the killer vaccine. Does Brady come back? NFL hadn't had a repeat champion in a long time. Does NFL have Brady and Tampa ride the wave the next 3 years? Well, he would have to pass Russell. He would be too old. I'm really thinking what they might be really trying to do is give him 10 like Yogi Berra. I think they mentioned Russell's name tonight, but I can't see him playing 4 more years. And then is it believable that they win the next 4 years? How believable is that going to be? It's not going to be very believable. I mean, it's barely believable the old as he is. Again, what did he throw tonight? He threw less than 30 balls, right? 21 out of 29, I think what he was. So he only threw 30 balls. You really think he got the arm to throw 50 balls? No way. No way he could throw 50 passes in the game anymore. So Mayfield versus Watson, maybe. Roger Goodell already letting the stadiums do. I saw that. In Gematria, GOAT equals 43. Brady is 43. So playing 4 more years, we'll put him 47. Yeah, that really ain't believable. Last time the Bucs won the Super Bowl, 37. Now Brady record is 7-3. Good point. Where's the 25 in attendance? No, it didn't say nothing about they needed that. Good point. They didn't say nothing about to attend that you needed that. Nope. And just as you would see them luxury boxes was packed. Some of them luxury boxes hold 30 people plus. So they was all packed. I still want to know why they gave Russell Wilson his award tonight. They didn't give the MVP out tonight. They didn't get a player of the year out tonight or defensive player of the year. So why? I just don't understand why they needed to do that tonight to give the player the man of the year, the Walter Payton Award tonight. That's something that I found odd. That's why when it happened, I made that. I was like, why? What is this? So I thought that was odd. The design for the Super Bowl looked trash compared to Super Bowl 43, which was Tampa Cardinals, which was still, yeah, it did. They put that new camera in there tonight too. Yeah, he only threw for 201 yards exactly. Bring them back them custom logos. Kane, that joint dude. LeBron shamed all his career just to get 6 rings. Yet Brady never gets shamed, and he has 7 exactly. The only time they shamed Brady was when he played Manning. And Manning was Eli was so terrible. I mean, he was so terrible. Look at Eli. It's like Eli shouldn't even be a consideration for the Hall of Fame. Only thing you could say is he won 2 Super Bowls. But like Wiley always talks about, look at his completion of work. Look at all his work. He was the reason they had such sorry teams. Remember, he was crying when they put the dude who got punched in front of him. Remember, he was crying because they broke his streak record. But they broke his record because they was like, look, dude, you ain't been that good as it was. You or your brother never had strong arms. Never. I said this before. I think their daddy has stronger arms than both of them put together. But that's the only time they really wanted to shame Brady was through him. And I think that was to stop, to be honest, that was not to stop Randy Moss from getting the Super Bowl. Right? They stopped Randy Moss from getting the Super Bowl. I think that was one of the things too. Don't let Randy Moss get in. What the hell are they doing over there? So we'll see. Chill, Eli is elite. Read my soul. Now Brady making Eli Hall of Fame look strong. Brady only loses to Jewish quarterbacks with a specific bloodline. That is interesting. I didn't know the Mannings was of the Jewish faith. Did not know that. That doesn't surprise me. You look at a list of actors, you'd be surprised. Brady on lose. Did you guys see Colin Jost last night and Michael Shea when they did the thing? And apparently some entertainer said nigga. And so they was like, they wonder where that got that from. And they had a picture of the entertainer next to Colin Jost. That was kind of funny. That was clever. That was clever. Greatest all time equals 188. Today's Super Bowl was 188. Amar Ben, thank you. 180 days after his birthday, biggest ritual. Gematria tells a lot. Tampa Bay equals 62. Patriot Mahomes 62. Good point on Randy not getting in the Super Bowl. Eli beat him twice. Brady would have been 9 exactly. Nick Foles beat him, right? Eli's Hebrew name, it is Manning. ID Jewish. Oh, Jewish. Interesting. Next season Super Bowl will be close. Could be King Kane. I heard Dwight Smith from the Bucks on Super Bowl 73 go on a podcast and said the NFL is scripted. Interesting. I wonder if Dwight Smith is off pension or he doesn't get pension, because I guarantee that ain't an NFL pension player saying that. They get pension, they ain't going to say nothing. Again, the pensions are something like $250,000. That's why OJ was never going to be broke. In some kind of way, the pensions are they can't take from the pensions. I don't even think they can take child support out of their pensions. It's asset protected. That's the word I was looking for. Pensions, the pension, because they wanted to go after OJ's pension, but it was asset protected. Because I remember when I used to sell the asset protective packages, OJ's name came up. They was putting OJ's name out there. They was like, look what happens when you have asset protection. In some kind of way, OJ Simpson's pension of $250,000 a year could not be taken and giving to those people. They took everything else. They tore his house down. They tore his statue down. They took his copy of the Heisman. USC removed his Heisman. Remember, they made Reggie Bush give his back over a damn house. That was a shaming. That's why you see Reggie Bush now on Fox. They shamed him, but like the same with Michael Vick. After they shame you and you don't complain, they get his shit back to you. Because you know the thing about a Heisman Trophy, he can turn one in and turn around and ask the dude to make him another one, and the guy would make him another one. So yeah, okay, he could buy another one. OJ could do the same shit. Oh. Larry Johnson exposed it. I don't know, Larry. I don't know about Larry. Because when Zach had him on and somebody asked Larry, was it fixed when he played? He said he didn't think so. That makes me suspicious of Larry. That makes me very suspicious of Larry. Because Larry went to a bigger college too. And he played in fixed college games. He played in fixed NFL games. So he didn't say that. And that surprised me. He said he didn't think so, and that's bullshit. They've been fixed every year of the NFL's existence, all the games been fixed. Every year. I would say the only games that might have not been fixed was the replacement players. Because let's be honest, with the replacement players, dudes who have no real stake in it, no pensions, they only getting the checks they was getting, and they were scabs, let's be honest. You know, I got that offer to be a replacement player. And I've said before, I was working for the water department. And it was like you had to pay your own hotel. They fed you. Trying to think. Once you made the team, then they paid for everything moving on. But to try out, you had to pay for all that yourself. You had to pay for all of that yourself. And I think at the time I didn't have the money to not be guaranteed a job. So just to take off. Kane rip. He admitted his pick 6 against the Raiders in the Super Bowl was scripted because they knew every play the Raiders was going to call. Well, homie, that goes back into Gruden being the coach. And not only didn't they change the offense, because again, they picked the defensive coordinator of Gruden's to be the coach of because remember, Gruden got traded to Tampa Bay. Gruden was traded because, they can trade coaches. So Gruden was traded to Tampa Bay. And then the defensive coordinator became the head coach, but he was a defensive coach. And They didn't change anything. He kept Gruden's offense in there. Martin Hanks, was Martin Hanks with the Raiders? I want to say Martin Hanks was with them. Had he left San Francisco then? But there was another defensive player that was saying the same. Oh, even Jerry Rice and Tim Brown, both are quoted as saying they were calling our plays out when we were setting up. I've caught Tim Brown saying, and Jerry Rice, they was calling everything out. So how don't you change the offense? Why would you keep that same offense in there? They didn't change the verbiage or anything. So yeah, that was a big because he got traded. Gruden didn't get fired, he got traded to Tampa. And again, that was my cousin Tony's team. Tony put that team together and got bogusly fired. He went to Penn State with Sandusky. And you know, I wrote one of the goofiest jokes about Sandusky. So this is the difference between a brother in the locker room and the European cat. So the European cat sees Sandusky abusing a boy. European cat leaves and he hesitates, watches, then leaves, then calls his daddy up. A brother would have saw Sandusky and be like, "God damn, boy, what is you doing?" And start kicking his ass. Brother wouldn't have, they'd have been trying to call somebody on the brother for whooping Sandusky's ass. Yeah. So he went, that's right, he did go to Penn State. So he played in fixed games in college. And they might have had him under MK Ultra then. I heard when he said that. Maybe so. I wouldn't put that past. Brady's 7th ring. His age, 43 -7, and the date was the 7th. They needed that energy. They lost a lot of ratings and money due to Rona. That's true. They did. That's why, surprisingly, the commercials were good to the end. Usually the second half commercials fall off. Actually, they showed some fresh ones. But see, that's the money grab. That's the money grab right there. They tried to make their money up because, again, it was what, $5 million a pop. And the game wasn't that exciting. It was almost where you could turn away and not miss nothing. We're 7th day of the week, 7th month. Yep, 7th ring. Vegas and the NFL wins. I'm gonna play 777 on 3-pick tomorrow. I might do that too. It's like right now the lottery, the Powerball is 42, and I looked at when the when the Mega Million was up to 42, and I was like, they giving this they're gonna give this money to some brother. So I wouldn't be surprised if Powerball on Wednesday and a brother wins. Maybe not all, but some brothers is gonna win off that 42. So I would play that. I would play 42, the 42 million. They haven't killed Larry. Yeah, but Larry ain't really dropped nothing serious. Not really. According to Browder Rice, for almost two weeks, the game plan was to run the ball on tap. Then Friday before the game, they changed the game plan to throwing attack. Raiders were all prepared. But remember, you got to throw the center in that. Remember, the center went crazy. Their starting center went crazy, or they made him go crazy is what I'm guessing. They did something to him to trigger it. And he called, like I was showing during the game, the center calls all the blocking schemes. He calls the power. The quarterback, what the quarterback does is like when he says who's the Mike linebacker, he is shifting the plays. He's telling the receivers, this is the Mike, so this is the proper way you run your routes. That's what he's telling them. And the back, who to pick up. But the blocking scheme for the lineman, the center calls that. If you watch the hesitation, the center is calling it out. It's interesting being on the floor level, being a receiver. I'm looking in and I'm hearing the center calling out the schemes. Sometimes you'll hear the tackle may make a check or something because he's not sure. But so that was critical to lose their center like that. But you're right. Yeah, they had a strong game plan because they had, I'm trying to think they had a good pair of backs that year. It was Napoleon Caffrey, whatever his name. I think he was with that Raider team. And they hired that dude on the coaching staff. Yeah, Valerie. I know it's harder to rig a game discreetly when the team you rigging it for is worse than the favorite. It ain't the first time. They've done that years past. Like what this is one thing the NFL will do that's cruel too that I noticed. It's like they let O.J. Simpson be shamed as a rookie. They let people go after him because he was the first pick. I never understood that though about the NFL. They would shame rookies like that. Like, okay, one thing that was obvious too, and Zach might have pointed this out, but it was like Joe Namath had the most. Joe Namath is the quarterback that threw the most pick sixes, yet he's in the Hall of Fame for winning the Super Bowl. Let's be honest. Joe Namath is only in the Hall of Fame because he won the Super Bowl, not for his performance. He threw the most career pick sixes. No one's thrown more than Joe Namath. So what does Donaldson do? His first pass, he throws a pick six. Do you see how they do that shit? Remember Donaldson's first pass? It was a Monday night game. His first pass was a pick six. Now, what does that do for your confidence? And I think they still won, but his very first, and it was like he wasn't shaken up about it like he expected in some ways. But that was a allude to Joe Namath's record. Lamar Jackson versus Aaron Rodgers, maybe. Because if you after the Super Bowl, you start making your next year, you can make a little more money. You getting your next year bets in. They want Devin White to be Derek Brooks for the Bucks. That's funny. Strong discernment. Ravens and Packers. I like that. Zach Crockett and John Ritchie were Oakland's fullback that year. Zach Crockett. Okay, I remember them. They were okay, Rocky. In 02. Got to break them early. Yeah, Hugo, they do. I'm sitting watching SportsCenter. I just heard the analysis say, wouldn't it let Brady get high-five the ref? Yeah, well, they showed that. Brady, because they caught him before celebrating. They caught the ref before. Joe Namath deserves Hall of Fame if Joe Theismann, if Namath is in. And his real name wasn't Theismann. He changed it because it rhymed with Heisman. His real name is something like Thiemann, something like that. I watched him play at Notre Dame. Dwight Smith says they let quarterbacks make the Super Bowl on their rookie contract before they get paid like Wilson, Goff, and Wentz. That makes a point to it because you don't have to pay them as much. Aaron Rodgers going to the 49ers. He's from California. It makes sense. That's why a lot of people thought Brady was going to go because he's from California, Santa Barbara, I think. Super Bowl, aka Las Vegas, so they'll let you know what's up next year. Yeah, that would be too obvious if we see another team makes it to there. It's like people have to see through this scripting. This is some of the worst scripting to let a team. And I think Deion was kind of warning them when Deion was saying it would never happen. I think he was kind of warning the league. This looks too obvious. You let him be at home is too obvious, but they seem to ignore that Brady being at home, and then they wore white. Like, okay, they wore white. I bet you they used their locker room. I bet they didn't do the home in a way like they would normally do, because logistic-wise, it wouldn't make sense to make them switch over. But so they kept their own locker room too. I bet you anything. They didn't switch to the away locker room because logistics, that wouldn't make any sense. But I already know they didn't. Stephen Bunker, what's happening? Aaron Rodgers needs to. Hey, did you see last night? Aaron Rodgers got engaged. At least when he got his thing, he said he's engaged. Rodgers from Cali, and they play in the SB in Cali. Yep. Bubba Smith admitted that the NFL's rigged Super Bowl III for them to merge. Well, I mean, that went back to Joe Namath. They won in 68. The Chiefs won in 69, and Baltimore won in 70. And this is the thing, 70, they was already merged, but Baltimore was originally in the NFL. The Baltimore Colts was an NFL team. But when they merged, they stuck Baltimore in the AFL. But they was originally an NFL team. And you know what's sad about Bubba? Bubba went to Michigan State, so I've known about him since I was young. But and then Todd Smith. I want to say Todd Smith, his brother played at Dallas. Todd, I think his brother's name was Todd Smith. He played at Dallas. Don't remember if he went to Michigan State too. Don't remember if the brother went to Michigan. Or no, Toady. Was it Todd or Toady? Oh, what was his brother's name? Can't think. He was a big guy too, though. He was a big brother. Remember, Bubba Smith was in the Taste Great, Less Filling. And Bubba Smith sued the league because he tore his knee up on one of the chains, and he sued and won. He had a knee injury because of the change. But you see, Bubba has been passed for a long time. So he paid the piper. Remember, he played in the movies and he did the commercials. Police Academy movies, and he was doing the Taste Great, Less Filling. Biggest troll job. Dan Marino. I mean, he was the stiff quarterback that couldn't get away, but his release, I like Jeff George release a little better, but quick getting the ball out fast, under center. I mean, later as the league went into shotgun, but under center, that cat threw such a pretty ball. You never heard his receivers complaining. Elseway's receivers always complaining he threw the ball too hard every time. Matter of fact, their machine, they had to amp up because he threw the ball. But all the cats was complaining that he always threw the ball too hard. Blown out the Buccaneers by 30 if NFL wasn't scripted. I kind of think so too. Sheep still eat it up. They won't wake up. No, they won't. Another fake. Good one. Fake entanglement. That's funny. Drake is now part of the State Farm commercials, and now Mahomes will suffer the Drake curse. Funny, King Kane. It's like my mind won't let me accept the fact that sports are just fixed entertainment, Brad Satterfield. Interesting. I don't know. I just saw it from a child's point, and I said the game that really convinced me was seeing the 76ers the first year of the NBA and the ABA merging. Dr. J getting shamed by Bill Walton, who had even when Bill Walton played for Boston, he was pretty much done. He was almost done in college. He had terrible foot problems his whole life. A lot of cats his size do, though. Yao Ming had the same problems Bill Walton had. Rick Smits had the same problems. And cats get that size. Sometimes they have them broken foot in this. Like now, Bill Walton even says asking what's in his foot. There's so much fake stuff in his foot now, just to give him a foot. Bro, that yeah, that heart on his head said it all. It said it all with Drake. You get used to it. They wouldn't let the Bucs shoot the cannons and made them wear white to make them look like the road team. The Chiefs had the better record. Yeah, I know that. And the Chiefs were the home team, but I bet they didn't switch locker rooms. It was going to be a logistic problem. Bill Walton was on a wheelchair by the time he was on the Celtics. Exactly. Remember when Michael Jordan fouled him? When Michael scored 63, Michael fouled 4 of them out. He fouled Walton out. He fouled Smith out. He fouled Danny Ainge out. Do y'all remember that game? And they still lost in overtime and on some fixed plays at the end. But Michael Jordan, they let him go for a minute. He put it on them. But they was trying to write that picture when Magic and Bird died out. And again, Larry Bird's career wasn't very long. Somebody did a thing on Larry Bird. And I mean, Larry Bird, and I've said this over and over again, the thing that hurt Larry Bird the most was transferring. You had to sit out a year. I think he had a early birthday as well. But Larry Bird really only had about 4 truly productive. And somebody does an excellent thing on YouTube that breaks Larry Bird down. And you see his run wasn't very long. I mean, they lost 2. I think he played in 5 finals and they lost 2. He lost 2 to Magic. But even by those last couple of finals, he wasn't the same player. And the only reason he made the dream team is because cats liked him. Magic liked him. He was one of Magic's guys. And Magic was around, Magic was the older guy around all them younger guys. So Magic wanted somebody closer to age to him. Because, I mean, Magic is 2 years older than me, and Jordan's 2 years younger than me. And all the players was closer to Jordan's age than Magic's age. So that's why they kept Larry Bird. And Isaiah, they got Isaiah's ass back. Number one, people don't like his ass. See Aaron Rodgers heading to San Francisco. I think Aaron Rodgers is still under contract. Off topic, but I've noticed a lot of new blood banks are popping up in cities. What do you think about this? Sadly, they almost making giving blood a job, to be honest. I know here, and I'm not going to say his name, but I know a cat that his woman forced him to start doing that. You can give blood 3 times a month, something like that. Because when I was over their house, I found one of the brochures, and might be more than that. I think you can give blood once a week. I think you can give blood, and they paid, I think here in Minneapolis, I think they pay $50 a pop or close. If it ain't 50, it's close to 50. And this dude was giving blood every week. Because one time she was sending his ass off, and she said, make sure you eat a little bit before, I'm like, I'm looking at her like she's a damn vampire. She's just as bad as the blood bank. So yeah, I don't doubt that all business boxing. I don't doubt that, because it is becoming more profitable. Maybe the vampires is hungrier. Vampires need the blood because they pay him better. Because this cat was doing it because he was laid off for a while. Yeah, Bird was the man for a minute. Blood and plasma. There you go, Rocky. You can give blood twice a week. Oh, okay, so you can give it twice a week. So that's 2, 4, 8 times. So that's a nice little hustle for some people. I mean, for people down and out, if it's $50, it was somewhere about $50 if I don't remember right. And this is the messed up thing. She made his ass ride the bus. He had to ride the bus to go give blood. Some fools, they take it. So twice a week. Okay, a couple people have said twice a week. Wow. Plasma is twice. Oh, plasma is twice a week. Okay, and that's what most people give. They don't give blood. They actually give plasma. Yeah, you shouldn't do it. All right, you really shouldn't give blood. You feeding vampires. You ain't really saving people. You feeding vampires. Let's be honest. It's vampires. There's real vampires on this earth. And they in charge of that shit. The movies show you they in charge of that shit. I mean, what do the movies tell you? You can't just, what do they say? You can't just indiscriminately kill because they get on to us. Remember, Interview with the Vampire, he was eating rats and shit. So they don't just need human blood. If they can just eat anything that's got blood in it and live. Remember, he was eating rats when he was in the old vampire before he had met the newer person. But it was the vampire. And that's some of Dr. Valentine's work. Interview with the Vampire. Like he the main one. And that's what Queen of the Dam and all that showed. That showed all that. Queen of the Dam. Remember, the statues became such high vibrational, they didn't need to feed anymore. Remember Aaliyah's character, if you read the book? They became so high vibrational, they didn't need to be vampires anymore. They came into statues. They talked to each other, telepathy. They was in their higher selves. And then one becomes back alive and she has to start feeding again indiscriminately. They're opening up, Ziggy Got the Juice wrote, they're opening up blood banks because people are unemployed and are desperate for money and the vampires are thirsty. Yeah, I dig that. So we are the Duracell batteries and somewhat, read my soul. Unreal shit going on. It is. You know they ain't using our blood for any good. That's right. I mean, when you give blood, like I just got my blood checked and it's like, why do you need 5 vials? 6 vials of blood. Why? Ain't that many damn tests in the world. It's not W1. No reason for blood banks anymore besides vampires. Exactly, read my soul. There's no wars going on. Like during Vietnam, yeah, but not now. But that just shows you who wants plasma, who wants to feed. Shows you who looking to feed. It's a sad world. Aaron Rodgers getting shamed in return for individual success. Somewhat, yeah, I can see that. Again, what didn't make any sense is them drafting a quarterback, and it's not preparing for the future. It's not helping what they had. He needed more weapons. He needed a 1 receiver or a 2 receiver. They got Adams. He needed a better tight end. It's like they needed so much more. And now they're saying that Love might be a bust because he ain't picking up the system. A lot of times they had him at 3rd quarterback. So they might have to eat that pick. That's what they was already saying. Hey, did y'all check out tonight? They traded Smith from New York. Again, a lot of people. Smith complained when they brought in Luka, and he didn't understand. He was the number one pick. Why they needed another point guard, and then Smith now is in New York, and now Smith to the Pistons for Derrick Rose. Mighty fishy there. Why would they want Rose? Why is Rose still in the league? But Rose was averaging 14 points a game. Like, I don't know if anybody saw the game here when Rose scored 50. You're talking about a Harlem Globetrotter game. Rose was the only one hustling. I mean, I watched the game. He cried afterward. He was like, man, I came back. He's crying after the game that they let him get 50. They ain't let him get 50 cents. And actually, I was surprised when they got rid of him here or let him go because he was a free agent. Because actually, he played well here. But he still had all them injuries. He ain't that same cat. I am a Bengals fan, and the Packers could have had Ted Higgins, man. Wow. They shamed Smith for Luka. Yeah, they did. Exactly. And Smith actually has a decent game. Devontae Adams smoked Ramsey the game before, but can't get open against the Bucks. Yep. That's right. Hill. But see, and that's why I was saying, when you look at analytics, look at the routes they was putting Hill in. How do you run into double teams? You look at the coverage and you still running routes that run into the double teams. And I'm sorry, I didn't point that out during the game, but I thought about that. I was like, look at all his routes. All his routes put him into the double teams. You know they're double teaming you, and you're not changing anything. You know they're look, how many times did Hill go in motion tonight? Think about that. How many times did Hill go in motion? I can only think of maybe twice. Anybody else help me with that? How many times do you remember Hill went in motion? Matter of fact, when they gave that toss to the back, that was normally Hill's play, but they ran it with the back. But I only remember him going in motion twice. They was resetting him, but I'm talking about motion, not just being reset, but I'm saying really, really motion, not just set in tight and then came out wide, or set tight and then going wide. I mean, actually putting him in motion, because they would zigzag him during the season. So they really couldn't match up to double teams. But when you put Hill in a set, it's easy to double team him because you see where he's coming. But if you got him back there zigzagging like they did during the season, it's harder to double team him like that. Because you can't just sit back there in the zone. You keeping him in motion like that, so a linebacker is going to have to pick up. They didn't put him in that. They didn't give him that at all. And I can remember twice they did that to him. Yeah, I got respect for him too. Nice guy. I met him a few times. He's a nice guy. He is. Hill barely went in motion. Yeah, I can only remember 2 times they went in motion. They had to play it. They just had to play. They played the Disney commercial with not only Tom, but with Gronk. Why were they both of them? Exactly. Good point. Yep, good point. But see, that's where the little egghead man in the room, when they give the teams the game plan, because Andy Reid is the master of putting people in motion, and he didn't run a lot of anybody. It wasn't just Hill wasn't going in motion. They weren't running a lot of motion tonight, just not like they normally did. And again, I'm not talking about resetting, because we saw a lot of them resetting, but not straight up motion to confuse. We wasn't seeing a lot of that. We were seeing a lot of resets, which again goes with the fix. But now I'm gonna turn off my NFL package. I gotta see how much when I turn it off, the football channel, because really football's over. So I'm gonna see how much of my other channels, because they'll take it's funny for me to get the NFL Network. I get the Nazi channel too, like it's called the American Hero channel, but it's the American Nazi channel, American Stalin channel. I mean, Hitler is on there like every other day. There was one point where you could watch Hitler every day because the History Channel was putting him on just as much as American Hero channel. And it shouldn't be called the American Hero channel. It should be called the American Nazi channel, because Hitler it was some years where Hitler would be on TV every day because History Channel used to put him on just as much as now this other channel. Now the other channel exists. It kind of puts Hitler on more than the American History Channel. But when they first, it was some years American History Channel, Hitler, before they put the Pawn Stars and all that stupid shit on there, Hitler was on there every day almost. You could find the channel and find Hitler on TV every day. He's supposed to be the most hated man in history, but damn if he don't be on TV a lot. For people supposed to hate me, and we know who controls the media. So if Hitler is really so hated, why is he still on TV so much? Just makes you think. Makes you think. The machine hit the jackpot tonight, 777. Uh-oh. I bet on Grunt catching the TV plus 340. Figured it was easy money with the script. Ooh, great. Good lick. Good lick. You could see the face of the players on the Chiefs team finally realizing the veil had been raised, accepting defeat, not opponent, but the script. And then, like I mentioned, when Fournette's TD, they didn't try to tackle him. You kind of see they gave up. They gave up. Usually you tackling Valerie. So the shaming ritual paid off. Antonio Brown too. That it did. But you know, they stripped him of a lot of bread. He's not making anywhere near the bread he was going to make if he fulfilled that Raiders contract. He only has some weeks to make the Raiders team. He couldn't have got cut. The money was guaranteed. But he got the championship. He did get the championship. And you see how he was able to redeem himself. And that route, let's be honest, that route he ran was crispy as shit. He shook the shit out of that DB in and then spun because he spun out of it, which was, but he did it so quick to be able to turn your shoulders and spin off somebody like that. It's a lot easier just pivoting away, making the turn in and then pivoting back out. No, he did almost a complete spin, but he did it so quick. It's like, yeah, boom, right back out. Shitting on him. It was a good route. So you're right, Valerie. It did pay for him. I agree. They never show you what he's saying or provide subtitles. Oh, that's funny. You're right. They don't. I agree. And it was like not even entertaining. Not really. It was kind of boring and anticlimactic. The 8 calls was hard. It was hard to get over that in the first half. I mean, it was too obvious. And you got an old quarterback like that, it just becomes even more obvious. First of all, you put the team at home, and then you get 8 penalties to 1. I mean, if people in America don't see that as a script, there's something wrong with you. I mean, you don't understand the game. You're not paying attention to the game. If you see all these advantages they gave this lowest seed team, and all the top quarterbacks that they beat coming into it. His stock rises back up. I've always loved Brown. He was the best receiver on the Steelers. Arguably, some of them years, he was the best receiver in the league. Separation. He's always ran good routes. He's always ran good, crispy routes. Even though he was a speed guy, he ran good routes. And he took advantage of running good routes. Tonight was the prime example of him running a good route and using speed. Again, you don't make that turn with your shoulders instead of just pivoting back. That's hell of quickness. What is he, 29, 30, and still was that quick? Whew, he ran that. That looked good. That was a hell of a good route. That was the one play that excited me out the whole game was that play because the route looked so good. But another thing I was saying about Hill not running good routes, tonight proved the same point. You see some of his routes, he was bending out too far, not running crisp across. He would bend them out too far into the double coverage. It was like he couldn't get that medium point because he doesn't run good routes. And so my point was being what I was saying about him last week. A lot of times when he was doing them crosses, he was going too much into the safety. he wasn't running into the open spaces. He was going too much towards one or the other of the double team. He wasn't running a crisp enough route to get away, to get that spot open. Because when they W like that, there's holes in the zone like that. And they never set him up. But again, his poor route running, he relies on speed and not really crispy routes. And it hurt him tonight. I'll say that. It hurt him. Another reason they had the Bucs win because of the coaching staff, besides Bruce and the rest of the staff, his brothers. And see, that's exactly Lorenzo, and that is a saying that the Rooney Rule has made a difference. That the Rooney, because they got two sisters on there too. And so that's saying that the Rooney Rule makes a difference. Well, the Rooney Rule is for head coaches, not assistants. And we saw Leftwich wasn't calling plays. Arians was calling them in to Brady. Now was Leftwich. I mean, it's all of them. I don't know who's holding the chart. It looked like Leftwich was reading off a chart. I couldn't see the shot if he was or not. But he wasn't calling the plays into the helmet. And normally that is the coordinator. And we saw Arians doing that. Arians was calling them in. So yeah, that's why. That's why. And that's a good thing. I'm not, because matter of fact, one of the dudes is the assistant head coach. One of the brothers is assistant head coach, so he over the rest of them. He was, I think, the running back coach. He was running back, assistant head coach. That's a high position. That's a high position. Towards the end of the first half, the Bucs called a timeout, 10 seconds, then put the clock back 13 seconds. Freemasonry as its finest. Yeah, I didn't understand that. And I called that out at the time. I was like, how did it go back? How did it go from 13 to 11? That didn't make any sense. They gave him more time. When clearly if it was a timeout, whatever happened, it was 11 seconds when the play was stopped. And then they put 13. I was like, how? How the free game was a kid named Brady. You see how the female reffing the game has a kid named Brady. Interesting. Yeah, Brian Leftwich is the offensive coordinator. Yeah, he's the coordinator, but he wasn't calling the plays in. That's why Reed had that machine on him. That's calling the plays in. The Leftwich, again, all of them have the game plan. The coordinator is supposed to have the situational board, and maybe Arians is, when the guy's upstairs, Leftwich looking at his situations, and then they relate what they should do to Arians, and he calls it in. That could be as well, because it doesn't seem like Arians is carrying a situation board. And Leftwich was looking down, so I'm guessing he had it. But Leftwich will be the one moving, and not Bellamy. It'll be Leftwich. Brady Thomas, interesting. I fell asleep. KJ. No, it was just as boring as the first half, to be honest. Maybe even more so boring. Maybe even more so. A little more so boring than before. Next tendency might be the Raiders instead of Chiefs when Brady retires. Could be, but shit. Brady going to play. They're going to try to get Brady to equal Yogi Berra, but he's going to have, again, are we going to believe that the Buccaneers can go back to back to back to back? Is that believable? Is that a product everybody wants to see? It's bad enough trying to believe that this 43-year-old that can't really throw a deep ball. He threw one deep ball. He only threw 29 passes for 200 yards. And granted, he threw 3 touchdowns, but he didn't throw bombs. He threw short passes. All the touchdowns were short. The Browns were short. The Gronks were short passes. So they weren't deep passes. The only time he threw the ball deep was to Evans on that when Evans tripped and they called pass interference. You could see the ref didn't see what happened because he had turned his back and started running. And he saw Evans fall. So he turns around. He didn't get a clear view on it because he had turned and started running. And then when he caught Evans tripping out the corner of his eye, or he was told in his earbud to throw the flag. But he didn't get a clear view because he had turned and started running. because he didn't want the play to get in front of him. No way it's believable at that point. Even the dumbest of the sheep have to wake up. We hope so, but it doesn't appear. Yeah, it wasn't a penalty. No, it wasn't a penalty. He tripped on his own. He tripped himself. The DB tripped off of nothing, and then Evans tripped too. But again, the ref turning his back to be the deepest person, he caught it out the corner of his eye. It appeared, and he threw the flag. It didn't look like he could have clearly saw it. And black quarterbacks are now 3-6 in the Super Bowl. 3 + 6 = 9. The Chiefs finished with 9 points. Ziggy, good breakdown. Thank you very much for adding that. Good breakdown. I can dig that. That makes a good point. Wow. So 9 brothers have made it. Damn. So Doug Williams, Russell Wilson, and Mahomes won. Huh. Wow. You wouldn't even think that Doug Williams would. Wow. It's only 2 people since Doug Williams and all the brothers that's been quarterbacking, and only 2 people since Williams. And Williams, what was that? Damn near 35, 36 years ago, if not more. And what is the odds that only 2 other people? Yes, very great breakdown. Like the WW, if people find out it was fake, they would still watch it. What else is there to do, really, to do to this? Right. We found wrestling got more popular. That's the thing. Wrestling became more popular. Again, what did they do? Wrestling, they started getting better athletes. It wasn't just the big out of shape dudes or the washed up football players. They actually started getting like the Hardy dude that can jump off of the roof of the place and do some spinnings and then land on a table or land on a table with somebody laying on it. That's some bad looking shit. He jumps off the highest ladder and boom, flips and shit, lands on somebody. That helped wrestling become through. Like really, when you look at Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant, Andre was physically kind of dying. He couldn't do much. And so it was him and Hulk really had to work it out, because at that point, Andre was in such bad shape because Andre refused to get the shots that would have helped him with his growing condition. He refused it. And that's why he died prematurely. But his health, from not getting the shots, his health was deteriorating. And he lived, I mean, it's a sad life that Andre the Giant lived. He lived a very sad life. They was talking about Andre the Giant could drink 2 cases of beer by himself and wouldn't be drunk. You think they have plans for the Herbert kid? Possibly, Gray. Possibly. NFL just got better athletes for their scripting. Absolutely. But I think the WWE did too. They really, really stepped it up when it came to that. Yeah, great athletes, the women and the dudes. New Jack was crazy and funny. You think Herbert? New Jack was crazy and funny. Yeah, New Jack was nuts. Anyway, well, since I'm pausing, let me give the divination out. The Mayan divination, I believe we are on day 11, which would be Monkey. And Monkey is Chin, Monkey artist, trickster, principle of intelligent co-creation of the higher life. And the energy is from the west going into Monday. That is the Mayan glyph for those of you that interest. And in the Toltec, I always tell the full story of this card. This is actually the only card I have that shows the day god and the night god. Even though they share the same hardness, the opposite, this is one picture that is the night god for this date as well. And this is one of the few times it shows that. As you see, their heart is the same heart. So in this image on the card, we see the monkey and the skeleton showing the connection between 2 extremes of life. the dynamism of the monkey and the immobility of death. The monkey holds a knife and death holds a heart. The fact that they share the same heart is showing that both are the same sides of a living being. Although the image of the knife and the heart may call to mind human sacrifice, it is important to note that this image comes from the Toltec codex. The historic Toltec did not practice human sacrifice, as supposedly the Aztecs. The meaning of the image is rather deeply spiritual. In the abstract thinking, the Toltec understood the importance of being aware of our mortality in order to give to life its full value. In their symbolic language, the knife represents enhanced attention, also called second attention. The skeleton or skull means transcendence, and the heart represents life. Thus, the image represents the achievement of transcendence in life that comes as a result of managing attention under the awareness of our own morality. The transcendence and special management of awareness that we call wisdom in the context of this card. Getting this card means that you have or you need to develop a passion for learning and understanding, a vocation for traveling deeply into the realms, of knowledge and the skills to teach others. It's important here to consider the Toltec concept of teaching, which requires the understanding of the concept of learning. In their perspective, the learning process does not consist of the teacher having the knowledge and giving the knowledge to the students. On the contrary, it was students that would get the knowledge by themselves or herself. The word for the learning was Nemamoksho, which means teaching yourself. In that light, the role of the teacher was not to represent him or herself as a source of knowledge, but to support the students in the process so they can teach themselves. The bottom line for the Toltec sage was that there is no other teacher than the Great Spirit, and the human teacher are just supporters of the great teacher. They help their apprentices to teach themselves by connecting directly with the Spirit without intermediaries. This is the sharp contrast with the modern attitude of teachers or spiritual leaders who put themselves in a higher place to be admired by their followers, so who often would make profits out of their students' devotion. Because of this commitment to connect with the Great Spirit without distracting intermediaries, there's no such room for worshiping people. With the teacher forgets his or her connection with the sacred source of all knowledge, the soul dies, and the result is a living fraud who needs the worship of others to believe in his or her lie. And we are 13 platoons, 0 cartoons, 8 tunes, 4 Uno, and it'd be 11 kin. So if anyone that manifests with anyone going into Monday, you are welcome to that energy, because that's all it is energy. And I guess, all our goal is showing this, is our goal is to make them admit how much they have lied and how much they have corrupted something that was spiritual. It was a spiritual system that they corrupted of ours. Sports was a spiritual system, not to be used for their gain. And so that's what's going to break it down. There's a poker ball in the middle. Chat Google Key Face if you haven't already. It will explain it all. This year old coaches won, championship in football. Nick Saban, 68. Also, they both won championships in Florida. Florida is known to be a retirement state. That is true. That is true. Yep. Do you think sports will ever get exposed for the scripting and put back the justice in the game? I hope so. I hope so. Because again, if you really look at the way the old system was, is there were so many teams that competed with these pro teams. Again, if you go back to the Firestone commercials and you see some of the jerseys, some say Firestone, some say Goodyear. These were pro teams. Matter of fact, they might have been part of the Eastern League. And so my point is, like everywhere you work used to have a basketball team and used to have softball teams. I mean, I can't tell you how far back in the 80s I always saw that everywhere. It was very unusual for a team, for work, not to have basketball in the winter and not to have softball when the weather was nice. Well, before this was the norm. So you had a lot of other leagues competing with these leagues. So there was a chance where some of these leagues weren't corrupted because they were competing with that thing. Again, there was a real live thing of local heroes. You didn't just need people on TV. Again, cable opened you up to a lot of these other heroes. It was only for a long time, basically 3 stations. And so baseball was the most heroes because baseball at one time was on the most. They had 160 some games. Basketball was second with 80. Football at one time only had 12 games. So there were local heroes. Every team, every city had semi-pro football. And Winter League is semi-pro basketball. So this was common. This needs to come back. Some of this money that's going to these big leagues needs to go back into the locals. So children can identify with people in their community and not just the people they'll never meet. It's better when you know the heroes, when you can see the full person, not just what's the persona showed on TV. It's realer to you when you see their flaws. You see their passion. You see them get mad, that they have emotions. And we don't have that anymore. Again, I've mentioned this name many times before. I didn't care about Dr. J because I had Lonnie Baltimore, who could take somebody baseline and do a 360 on them. So what did I care about Dr. J? I could go see somebody do all that stuff. Because I had a stepfather that loved rec ball. So we went to the rec ball games. We went to all the tournaments. That's why my love for history of the sport is still so great that I got to see all these cats. I saw a bunch of ABA players. Matter of fact, at one time, Kalamazoo was going to bring in an ABA team. I don't remember which team, but at one time they were trying to bring in an ABA team. Because what they did is a bunch of cats from General Motors that was making that big money, and Gilmore's, which backed AJ Ford Racing, was a local business at one time. They was trying to bring in an ABA team. I can't remember which team. And we would have had an ABA team. The Kalamazoo Wings still play in Kalamazoo. So you had an opportunity to see pro sports and not just what's on TV. I never really watched the Olympics. That's rigged too. Of course, when you remember what they did to Roy Jones, definitely scripted. You think sport? Yeah. So yeah, Nick Saban. Yeah, Saban. Remember when Saban went to the Dolphins? They shamed him. That's all that was just to shame him and put him in a better position. That's all. Lorenzo, good catch. Also Brady. What was I mentioned? Brady and NFL showed a lot of support for Trump, and Florida was yeah. They didn't bury Brady for that. They did not bury. Remember, they made fun of it last night on Saturday Night Live, though, about Brady going for Trump. They said that on Saturday Night Live. Never watched the Olympics. It's that rigged too. In some regards, it is. You had Nidia Kamovich. She was from one of the Eastern blocks, but you had the other girl who won the Olympics in 72. So the Olympics 76, they knocked the other girl. Instead of giving her, 10s, they gave her 999, and they gave Nidia Kamovich the 10s, and their performances were equal, but they was pushing another girl. They was pushing Nidia Kamovich. I can't think of the other girl's name, but Roy Jones is the most crooked of it. Watch when they steal it from Roy Jones. And then the Olympics takes blood too. Remember when they did Ali, when they killed Ali, that was right before the Olympics. Remember, Ali won the Olympic gold medal. That's what put him on the map. Not so much as the AAUs, but the Olympics is what put Ali on the national map, and that's what put the air behind him. The Dodgers won 7, Saban won 7, Brady won 7. That's a good one. That is a good one, Ziggy. Roy talked about that with Joe Reagan. 8 win. Remember what happened in the USA basketball team back in '88? Yeah, it was a shaming. But the first shaming came in '72. My cousin Ed Ratliff was on the team with Doug Collins and them. When they win the game, and then somebody comes down from the crowd and puts 2 more seconds on the game in '72. How is that possible? How can somebody come from the crowd and say, the game is over? The game is over. The official bench and the game is over. And somebody comes from the crowd and tells them they have to put more seconds on the clock. Who else would keep the time like that? No one. No one else would keep the time but the official scorekeeper. So how could somebody come from the crowd, the stand, and say, put more time on there? Who wasn't official? And they did it, and the Americans lost. And that's why they did it, so the Americans could lose, because it was the agenda of trying to make these players, these European players, people respect them and respect when they bring them over. That's why Spain won, beat the NBA, and they was like, oh, they had no chemistry. No, they just didn't play well on purpose. They didn't play well on purpose. Soaking up all this wisdom. Okay, PJ. These snowstorms have been crazy lately. Weather manipulation. Let me tell you, let me get my phone. Let me tell you how this weather gonna be here. It's not uncommon, but usually our weather is the coldest in January, not February. Still -2. So the rest of the day, it's gonna be cold as -11. Tomorrow, high of 1, cold as -11. Tuesday, 7 above, high -8. Wednesday, 9 above, -13 below, low. Thursday, 0, -13. Friday, -2, -13. -2 gonna be the high. And then we're gonna have a warm up on Friday of -3, but that night is gonna be -15. So yeah, this is odd. Oh, okay. This is odd for this time of year. Again, our coldest month is generally January, not February. So this is out the ordinary. What was George Foreman shaming because they gave him the grill and let him win the heavyweight title back as an old man? George Foreman, okay, what you got to remember is, so in the '68 Olympics, when George Foreman wins the title, George Foreman is walking around with a flag. Well, we know that we know the brothers did the Nazi salute. You know, we know the brothers did the Nazi salute. Tommy something and John Higgins. Maybe I'm wrong. But when they did the Nazi salute, so Jabbar didn't go, Wes Unseld didn't go. So when they made the basketball team, it really opened up for Spencer Haywood, because Spencer Haywood, this is to go to show you, they didn't send all the top players. Spencer Haywood was kicked out of college because of UAD punched a player. Spencer Haywood makes it in the Olympics and turns it out. So my point, getting back to George Foreman waved a little flag. George Foreman wins a fixed fight against Frazier. And then he loses the fixed fight against Ali. He quits after getting beat by Jimmy Young. He said he had a heat stroke. He thought he saw Jesus during the heat stroke, so he quit boxing. He comes back, and again, he wasn't a good interview. He wasn't a good talker. Preaching, whatever they did, made him a good talker, where he could get that money from the grill, and then he could win the championship. Again, not believable. Remember, Tommy Morris beat the shit out of George Foreman. Tommy Morris, who later had HIV, I think died of HIV, beat George Foreman. So, yeah, when he knocks out, what's his name? I can picture the guy's face. When he knocked him out, it's like, yeah, okay. But you see his lifetime script. His lifetime script. And they don't call him for foul when he hits a rabbit punch on Joe Frazier. He clearly hits him back here. should have been disqualified, or at least a point taken from him. None of that was done. None of that was done. But yep, that's why they do. I live in Illinois. It's freezing. After 88, the U.S. started playing with professionals. That's right. That's right. And that's on purpose, the shaming on purpose. But that was really the professionals. See what they were setting up when the professionals lost, when LeBron and a young Carmelo lost. And so you could look at the Spanish teams, the Ginobili, the two brothers that played with LA. They've been in LA off and on. Those two brothers was with Spain. Rubio, who didn't play. Rubio was on that team too, but didn't play. And that's what they was making the way for them, the people to accept them. That's all that was about. Not that them young brothers couldn't play. Again, when I get into Spencer Haywood, the top U.S. athletes ain't playing in the Olympics in 68. But Spencer Haywood was 6'8", 6'9", and was a dog. And Spencer Haywood turns it out. And it puts him directly in the ABA, where he becomes one of the few people that was the MVP. What is it? The MVP and Rookie of the Year. Spencer Haywood's first year was probably 68, 69 in the NBA. And we have free agency in the NBA because of Spencer Haywood. Let's not forget that. It's called hardship, but technically they didn't want to call it the Spencer Haywood rule. They called it hardship draft. And Spencer Haywood, it's not a lot of film on that 68 Olympics, but one picture I always had was him yoking on them. And again, in the Olympics, you could dunk, whereas in college, you couldn't dunk. But in the Olympics, you could dunk. And there was a picture I had for years of Spencer Haywood dunking one in the Olympics when the dunk was banned from college. And that put him but my point is this. Jabbar doesn't play. Wes Unseld. The All-Americans don't play in the 68 Olympics. They get a B team. The B team has a cat that ain't even in college. He gets kicked out of college for punching a ref. And the B team still won the Olympics against professionals because all the other countries have professional athletes that get paid for being whatever they are, whatever sport. The other countries ain't never just had all amateurs. That's a farce that they made the Americans do. Adrian Brundage. But that shows you that ain't changed. So when they lost in 88, that ain't changed. That didn't change what we saw Spencer Haywood didn't do. So, okay, our A team can't go. Our B team is better than anybody in the country. That's my point. But they threw those to accept more of these European players coming over. They need fans in the NBA for people to believe that we still need Eastern Bloc. Let's be honest. They now only come from the Eastern Bloc. Yeah, we got a couple from Spain, but mostly the taller players come from the Eastern Bloc. But without fans, you can't. That's why they need those players, is to put butts in the seats. So without butts in the seats, why are they still needed? And why didn't more America speak up? Isn't it funny how when they take away other people's jobs, people speak up? But when these Eastern Bloc people come in and take American jobs, don't nobody speak up for it. Now, one person came up and said, we don't need them foreigners coming into America, taking American jobs. Nobody speaks up for brothers like that, though, do they? Especially when you get where they look what's called white. They ain't really white people, though. The people from Eastern Bloc is less white than the whites in America. But they look like them. It's the psyop that they look like them. But nobody spoke up about that. That's taken away from American jobs. But you got unions running all over the country talking about keeping American jobs. But when it comes to the melanated people jobs, nobody came up. Barkley did it first. Barkley told the truth. Barkley said, you bringing them over here to put people in the seats. And they must have gotten his ass because the next couple of weeks, he's like, Ginobili's my favorite European player. But he spoke the truth at first. He spoke the truth at first. And, Barkley is the highest paid analysis. I don't know if people realize that. That clown, to play the clown, he's the highest paid analysis. And he's a clown. People laugh at him. But at that one time, he spoke truth. But no one came up and said, why are we saving these American jobs? Still, no one says it. I'm probably the only one that says this. There are enough American players of equal or in greater talent that don't make it. Like we was talking about Smith and Luka. Smith, in my opinion, is just as good. You give Smith the advantages that Luka gets, giving him all the calls, basket manipulation, and Smith would have been just as dangerous as Luka. Just as dangerous. I mean, Luka's got more of a globetrotter game than anybody, where he sees the script. So he knows if he bumps into somebody. Why isn't that taken out of basketball? Somebody leave their feet and you bump into him, that's a foul. That should be taken out of the game. You can't go into a person. What did I miss? I'm sorry. Tommy Smith and Carlos. Yeah, they was the one that threw up the Nazi salute. Yep. And they got a statue of them throwing a Nazi salute. And that's how they tricked us all. I mean, I've told this story before. When I was a young man and a teenager threw it back or a young man threw it back, I mean, I don't know if y'all remember that. You did this to a brother, everybody would do it back. You just be riding and you see a brother and throw it like that. Brother would throw it back or they nod. But a lot of times somebody would throw it back. Or if they thought your car went by, they would do it like this so you could see, you could look in the mirror and see they spoke to you. That used to be a real thing that you saw constantly with each other. Now, again, we Nazi saluting, but as a way of communicating, it was a great way that a young person could feel the energy of an older person. Again, if you threw it up and an older person you idolized threw it back, that made your day because you connected with him. Like, you see the brother, what's up, brother? And the brother throws it back. That was a real kind of thing back in the day. And it got lazy. It turned into people just nodding. But before nodding, it was like you would get that back. What's happening? Hey, what's happening, young man? Young blood, what's happening? That used to be a good thing. And I mean, really, when a dude I admired that was an older teenager, that just, it just gave me such inspiration. I was a shy child. And so it might be a person I wouldn't normally go up and talk to just because I was shy. But if I saw him walking, and I knew enough to throw it up. Because a lot of times brothers would look at you like, are you going to throw it up? Or the brothers would throw it at you and you throw it back. That used to be a real thing. That's dead now. You throw it to a person now, they give you the finger. The fuck wrong with you raising your hand up to me? If you don't notice, those Eastern Bloc players are placed on teams with a heavy influence of Magnus and immigrants in that region. Yeah, well, I mean, the teams too. Like you look at the PSYOP coaches, you got the PSYOP Mark Cuban, how he made his billions don't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. You can see he was chosen. Just these guys come making these incredible stories. This dude drops out of college. Parents ain't really got a lot of money, but he got enough money saved to buy a restaurant. That's not believable. That you got enough credit. I mean, it's just not believable. Mark Cuban is not believable. It's just like when they was sticking all of them in San Antonio. And even the dark-skinned brothers. And Giannis, again, Giannis is not needed or his brothers. Them his 3 jobs is taken away from Americans. You took a brother, again, look at Shotty. Now, Shotty ain't 6'10", but Shotty and Giannis came in about the same time, played together for a few years. Giannis' brothers ain't that good. They're not that good of players. There's Americans just as good. So nobody's crying about that, though. Good evening, Edward. Thank you for joining me. They are trying to make the Mavericks the same way. Exactly, Lorenzo. Matter of fact, the Rockets are well known. Centers are foreigners. Hakeem, Olajuwon, and Yao Ming. Exactly. And it went back to Hakeem. Like, why did they need him? Now, I don't want anybody to say Patrick Ewing because Patrick Ewing's from Jamaica. But why did they need Hakeem? I mean, that just shows you they were trying to get rid of American players then. And nobody's up in arms about it. And we should be. We should be. Now, Hakeem later became good, but don't tell me when you brought Hakeem and Hakeem went to Houston that there wasn't Americans just as good. Because he wasn't polished at first. If you looked at all of them being seniors, other than him being tall. Hakeem later became a good player, wasn't that tall either. This new generation of basketball is dead. It's just like not enjoyable. No, not really. It's so globetrottery. And listen to them when they play the music. That's the shit that trips me out. Man, I saw the Globetrotters play since my first time was 68. And again, I've had friends that played on the team, so I would go to games. And gosh, what year was that? I want to say, let me see. Brennan was alive, so this must have been, Brennan was little though, so trying to think. Brennan to have been 95. So this was probably 98 or 01. Maybe 98, 99. And I noticed they was like the Globetrotters, when they did tricks, they didn't play music. When they was playing back and forth, playing real basketball, they played music. And now the NBA plays music like that. Now, maybe in the bubble, they quit doing it. I'd have to listen again. But before the bubble, when it was fans in there, they was playing music just like the Globetrotter games. During live play, playing music. People really believe these leagues owners have morals and integrity. They do, right? Read my soul, they do. One players deserve NBA spots more than foreigners. Exactly. These should be given to Americans. I mean, again, this is what they did to us. They took people off the farms and they pushed baseball. That's where you get to Jackie Robinson. That's where you get the Negro Leagues. That was what was pushed. When people came off the farms, that's what was pushed. Then when we had the next great migration north, they built all these high rises that later became slums. They put basketball courts everywhere. So really it went to my mother's generation, going back to when Connie Hawkins was little, and the basketball courts being in New York in the 40s. The Ruckers, Mr. Rucker actually started that in the mid-50s. In the mid-50s, the Rucker was the over the parks in the mid-50s. So do you see what they did? They shifted it from baseball to basketball by putting all the parks near the projects. Whereas before it was baseball. Again, even in my generation, we could get 18 people together and play baseball. Now, again, my stepfather working for General Motors, worked middle working class. We would play football. We'd have 22. Everybody had on uniforms. I mean, again, middle working class people. I had my first full equipment in 3rd grade. Full equipment. That was one of my Christmas gifts. My father brought me the pants and the shoulder pads. But on the other hand, my father brought me my first football helmet. I was probably 1 or 2. Helmet was bigger but I had it that long. And my first football, plastic football. So I was, I just had the talent to hoop. Ralph Sampson, Hakeem were the original Twin Towers, but Ralph was more well-known than Hakeem first came through. Yeah, they drafted Ralph the year before. So it made no sense when they drafted Hakeem. It made no sense. You already had Ralph. But I'm going to tell you Ralph Sampson's mistake is him, Mark Aguirre. Mark Aguirre, I think, stayed all 4 years, or he stayed at least 3. But they all came back. Ralph Sampson was drafted by the Lakers. Do you hear me? He was drafted by the Lakers right after they had Worthy. That next year, they drafted Ralph. And Ralph stayed in college instead of going with the Lakers, which I never understood. I never understood that. That made no sense that he didn't go. And I watched Ralph. Ralph is my age, and I watched Ralph play a lot. Do you know this man could handle the ball? Did you know the guy was, I think he was player of the year 3 years in a row. He went to the Final Four, I think, 3 years in a row. And I've said this before. They changed the rules. I mean, it was so ridiculous. And I've showed this before, but I'll show it again. This is how they fixed it to combat Ralph Sampson. Now, when you take a basketball hoop, see if you can see this. Normal three-pointer in the NBA is 25 feet. Most of it in college and high school is about 21 feet. All right. When Ralph Sampson then was a senior, let me show you what the ACC did. This shot right here, which is barely more than the free throw, was worth 3 points. So when Wittenberg and Sidney Lowe and them was shooting threes, they were shooting these kind of threes. That's how they cheated Ralph Sampson. Sugar McLaughlin played in the MAC tournament where Western Michigan was. He went to Central Michigan. They purposely held the three-point shot till he graduated. He was one of the best first pure shooters I ever met. And I know no one knows him. Super nice guy, probably retired out the post office. He's in the Grand Rapids, Michigan Hall of Fame, but he could go. Deep range, but they waited for him, and they waited for him to leave because they knew how devastating. He was scoring 50 points in high school without a three-point shot. They used to always tell a joke that when he came to Kalamazoo, one night he played Lloyd Norris and scored 50 on them, and then he turned to score 50 on us. No. He did score 50 on Norwich and beat them. We blew him out, and he had 35. I remember I pinned this one dude was running in front of me, put it up, and I just caught his shit. As soon as he released it, I just caught it, grabbed it off the backboard and turned. We shut him down. I mean, he had 35, but we blew. I mean, his 35 didn't help him none. That's a little ego go, but we blew him out. We blew him out. The other Kalamazoo team didn't blow him out because he put it on them. He did drop 50, but he didn't drop 50 on us. We blew him out. But that's still my man. He was a good guy, real good guy, great shooter. And he had had a throw, but it was a shot. He came it was really a weird kind of motion where he really, instead of just here, he had kind of this kind of motion, but it was a shot. But from a very young age, he could throw that shit up. I'm glad you mentioned the music playing at NBA games. The music's mostly played at the games are hip hop, but they changed the players' dress code because they were too influenced by hip hop. The irony, and that shit ain't even since Stern died. It had nothing to do with trying to kill the culture of Iverson. Let's be honest. That's who they was really attacking. Casual dress, popular dress. And the thing was, when they saw Kobe wearing the jerseys, he's like, oh, I can't have Kobe corrupted. Because Jordan took after Magic. Let's be honest. Jordan gets a lot of credit for the dressing, but the dressing started with Magic and Kareem. But I'll say more Magic than Kareem. But Magic was kind of raised by Dr. Tucker, Charles Tucker, and he got influenced by Dr. Tucker to dress when they traveled. Dr. J was kind of little influence of that too, where, to dress up. And so Jordan took that from Magic and they dressed up. Well, Iverson and them was, different cats, different times. They didn't want to be all stiffed up. Where Jordan is like 2 years younger than me and kind of my generation where we like wearing suits. Some of the younger cats didn't really necessarily like wearing suits. But you're going to force them to be something they ain't. Not just the dress code, but the style of play. Oh, definitely. Yes, Shaman, Alvin Iverson, exactly. Magic was a pimp. No, Magic was a trick. Magic would do it to anybody. And I mean anybody they put in front of him. Old, wrinkled up man, European man. It didn't matter to Magic. Magic was known for keeping it up, and he would do it to any of them that they put in front of him. Kind of disgusting. So Magic got pimped. He had a high wizard try to train him. Dr. Buss was his handler. They hated the tats and the weed smoke from it. Arius Spears would play a character of AI, and he showed AI smoking cigarettes. I wonder if that's true or not. I lay around. I say around the 2000 NBA and street ball started being the same, but before that they were separate. I want to disagree with you on that one because they was never more street ball than the early 70s. The early 70s before Magic and Bird came in, watch one of those games. And I say this all the time. I'll say this. This will be the difference. The early 70s game, whoever got the ball was going to score. I mean, literally was going to score. You didn't see too many misses. But whoever got the ball did his thing and he scored. There was no motion run, no kind of movement. It was like once one person got the ball, he was going to score. And that's how the games was in the 70s till Magic came. Now, street ball, people ain't going to be as consistent. But it was a point in the early 70s where whoever got the ball was definitely putting that work in. Bernard King's game. Look at Bernard King's game. Truck Robertson, Adrian Dantley. I mean, these guys got the ball. They was going to score. Whereas Magic came from Dr. Tucker, the no-look pass. I don't care what anybody said. That's Dr. Tucker's pass. That's where Magic got the no-look pass from, is from Dr. Tucker. But Magic put passing even more than Larry Bird. But Larry Bird was very team-orientated too. He wasn't just going to shoot every time. He tried to make his players better. But that saved basketball. Again, basketball is on tape delay. Couldn't watch the championships because nobody sponsored it. They put it on tape delay. That's how much they cared about it. That's why Stern invented Michael Jordan. That's why he invented Michael Jordan. I mean, it really was. That's why he invented Michael Jordan. That's why he put Michael Jordan with the Bulls, made sure he had a good coach with Phil and Tex. I mean, they made all the moves to put that the best they could. You got Reinsdorf, owned the Sox too, and the Bulls. Sox only won one World Series. Bulls ain't won none since Jordan. My opinion, Wilt was the most underrated. Oh, definitely. People today just don't realize how great a player he was. I don't care if it was only 8 teams. Wilt was a great player. Look at Wilt's stats, and I don't mean the stats of him scoring. Look at how his whole career, I think he only fouled out one time in his whole career. He played almost every minute of his whole career. Matter of fact, some years Wilt played more minutes than there was in the season because of the overtime. There's one year he averaged more minutes than there was in the season because of the overtime games. I mean, this guy was just a fierce competitor, but one of the best shaped athletes that has ever played basketball. I mean, this guy played pro volleyball for 10 years. He was such a good athlete. I mean, Magic tells a story how Wilt was playing pickup with them, and not pickup, but they was working out, and how Wilt was dominating in his 50s, my age. Again, if I was 7 foot and without all the injuries. But at 50, he was still able to dominate. Playing with them and holding more than his own against Kareem. But yeah, Ziggy, Wilt, people don't appreciate Wilt. In some ways, I still don't see Wilt not being the best ever. I mean, you average 50 points, 38 rebounds for the season. That'll never be done. 50 points for the season. They've tried to score 100 points in the game by fixing them, but it don't look believable. They shamed Jalen Rose for Kobe's 80 like Jalen was the only one guarding him. I mean, that's how they do it. They try to shame Jalen like he was the only one guarding him. What was the guy that played with LeBron? Bosh. Bosh was on that team. Was McGrady and Vince Young on that team too? Vince Young might have not been. McGrady might have been. You don't hear none of them get shamed, but they shamed Jalen. You want to see more power running in football? The O-line like the Hogs. Magic is a Johnson. That's funny, Lorenzo. I am 16, but I'm a scholar. Wilt was a beast. 52-inch vertical. Oh, yeah. At 7 foot. And look at his wingspan. I mean, people don't appreciate the play. Like, it's a book. If anybody's really interested in Wilt, get the book of their 1967-68 season. And at the time, it was the best record ever. There's the year they won the championship in 67 when he finally when he finally got over beating Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals, and then they played the team who he'd later go to. He played against LeBron James' daddy in the finals, Nate Thurman. Played against them in the finals. Read that. It's a book about the season, and see how Wilt averaged a quadruple. What is it for? Quadruple double for the playoffs? He averaged a quadruple double for the playoffs. Every game. Look at the stats. They put at the end of this book, they got all the stats. And I mean, the guy was unbelievable. And yes, there was less teams. Matter of fact, you can find information where they say Wilt was playing pro in junior high. There's some records. Again, you had a lot more pro leagues back then. And there are some records that suggest that when Wilt was in high school and junior high, he was playing in some of these pro leagues. He had people taking him where he would go get paid and dominating these leagues at 16, 15. We know he was up in the cloisters playing against the pros up there, which were Jewish resorts. All the Jewish resorts in New York had basically pro teams. And they would play tournaments with each other all year. And they picked up Wilt young. Wilt started working up there young. Nate Thurman nasty on 2K. How did they shame Jalen? I was telling some guys that these dudes are manufacturing. They build a narrative to get your heart and feelings into them. Yeah, well, like when I just say, I don't really know if it's a shaming, but he gets teased because it's like Kobe only scored 80 on him. So that's the thing with Jalen. When they say this Kobe scored 81, people try to say that he only scored 81 on Jalen. Like Jalen was the only one guarding him, but Bosh was out there too. And I want to say Tracy McGrady, but maybe McGrady was gone or not there. But I want to say Vince Young might have been on that team. He could have been gone by then too. I don't quite remember. Wilt or Kareem, that's kind of an interesting one. One thing you have to say about Kareem is he had the most unstoppable shot in the history of basketball. The only person I ever saw block the sky hook was Wilt. And I mean, that was when Jabbar was in his second year. And I mean, he was right in front of the free throw line or right in the free throw lane and threw one up on Wilt. Wilt got that shit and blocked his hook. I was like, whoa, I'd never watched anybody. But I mean, when you were taught to do hooks, and if you watch basketball in the 40s, you'll see this. A lot of people's jump shots was hook shots. That was the way they shot jump shots. That's why when the shot from the half court created by the Globetrotters was really done by Goose Tatum, because again, this is how they shot jumpers. You know, a guy in Indiana was the first to shoot like this and jump. There's a statue up of wherever he went to high school. You get the book on with Oscar Robertson about Crispus Attucks High. You get that book and it shows a picture of that dude. And that's why you see the big O shooting with one hand. George McGinnis the same way out of Indiana. They were really doing the U. That's why when you see Oscar Robertson, he'll drop this and he would just shoot with one hand. I kind of picked that up myself, more from McGinnis than Oscar. But where a lot of dudes, you see some games, everybody is just throwing hooks. Like watch a game from the 40s. Everybody's just throwing hooks. So it wasn't nothing to see a dude on the wing about 20 feet out, throw a hook and make it. I mean, that was just how the game was played. But my point was when you were taught to throw a hook, it was the one time other than a left-hand layup, you were taught to do another shot with both hands. Because almost when I was taught, we were taught how to shoot right-hand hooks. We was taught how to shoot left-hand hooks. That's just the way they used to teach it. So you could hook and Jabbar would be like, he'd catch that sucker and you didn't know which hand he was going to shoot it in. He would give a shake of both, and if he was going with the left, he would sit there, same form. Either hand. He dropping it on you, either hand, it didn't matter. That's a skill nobody uses. And Bill Walton changed it into the jump hook we see today. Bill Walton said you didn't have to do all this. You could just get up there and flip it. You know, just get up there and flip it in. That's what was called a jump hook. And that's what almost everybody did. They hide the wide paint because of Wilt. Well, yeah, they widen the lane because of Wilt. The thing, like before, you technically could jump over the free throw line and dunk it in. Wilt did that in practice, and one of the writers said it, and one of the writers called up to the rules committee. Wilt was just messing around in practice, and Wilt just jumped from the free throw line from not Dr. J run from half court. No, Wilt was in the free throw circle, jumped and dunked it in practice from the free throw line. No running start or nothing. He just jumped, boom, punched it. And one of the writers called the rules committee and said, we got to make a rule for this. Goaltending. Watch Wilt play in high school. You could still goaltend. When he went to college, they put the rule out. They took the rule out. You couldn't goaltend anymore. But in high school, Wilt wasn't letting nothing get by him. He was like, yeah, get this out of here. Get that out of here. I'll let this one go. Get this out of here. Watch Wilt's game in high school where you could goaltend. Like he said, Wilt was the best because they changed the game. They changed the game because of Wilt. What did they change because of Michael Jordan? They helped Michael Jordan, took away the hand check rule. Look how effective. Michael Jordan never won during the hand check era. He didn't win when they could still hand check. They changed the rules to help Michael Jordan. Kobe really only scored 18 on Jalen. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Jalen, it wasn't just Jalen. Honestly, the level of competition hard then, to me, Kobe and LeBron had the most difficult comp. I don't know if that's really the whole story. It's hard to say that the competition in the 70s wasn't great. I mean, basketball competition was so strong, you had 20-some NBA teams, and at one point there was 15 ABA teams. So the competition was pretty strong during the 60s and the 70s. And then think about it, when Dr. J and the leagues merged, you can't tell me that wasn't good competition. That was real strong competition. And I mean, the leagues didn't merge till 77, 76, 77, I think. Nah. The first full merger was 77, 78. So 76, 77 was before they merged. I think they merged that next season, 77, 78, or because, yeah, I won't say Louis Dampier. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the last ABA season was 76, 77. Maybe I'm wrong about that. So I don't know. I don't know if that's a hard thing to say. I don't know if their competition was all that much greater. He called the feds. Shit, he called the feds. Nah, NBA saw now. Will sounds unbelievable. Just as a tough player, could run the game, played every minute. Again, when we talk about the first basket manipulation shot caught on camera, I'm pretty sure it's the 69 Don Nelson shot. I'm pretty sure of it. They probably couldn't do the whole game, but they helped that one shot. And Wilt wasn't in. I've told that story many times. They held Wilt out. Alex Hammond, I think was the name of the coach. He held Wilt out. So Wilt wasn't in there. Yeah, 80s and 90s was tough basketball, good basketball. Again, when you're talking about the 80s, you're talking about Magic and Bird. So you can't say that Magic and Bird played less competition than LeBron and Kobe. I don't know if that would be realistic. I think that the competition was just as tough in some ways, probably tougher in some ways. Because the 70s, I mean, this is what you got to understand about 70s players. 70s players were unstoppable. It wasn't that they were so selfish. It was that everybody was that good. Whoever got the ball was going to score every time. So I'm not talking about selfish dudes. I'm talking about dudes who was that good to score every time, guaranteed. That was the 70s, early 70s game. So I know when I talk about it, it sounds like selfish people, but understand it wasn't that they were selfish. It was like no one could stop them. Whoever got the ball wasn't going to be stopped by anybody on the court. They were that good. It looks selfish watching it because the ball ain't moving. It's isolation only. But Cats was that good. Now, what you have to understand is the shoes are better. Connie Hawkins played his whole career on Converse. I played 2 seasons in Converse. It destroyed my shins. I was forced to wear them for 2 seasons. Or really, no, I'll take that back. I was forced to wear them as a sophomore. We got a pair to practice and a pair to play in. Up to that point, I've been wearing Pro Keds, and then I wore the All-Star Adidas, the Jabbar shoes, my 9th grade year as a freshman. 1 year of wearing Converse destroyed my shins. So even the next year when I switched and wore leather Pro Keds, my legs were destroyed for that 1 year of wearing Converse. So that's how bad the shoes was. As I mentioned, Connie Hawkins only wore those. Jabbar always wore leather shoes, but some of the cats wore Converse. So the equipment wasn't as good. We didn't have cats staying in shape all year round. We didn't have cats making enough money to have a personal trainer, a personal person to help you with the food so you ate right. You didn't have any of that. And I went way longer than I wanted to. I looked it up. He scored 25 on Morris Peterson. Okay. Kobe scored majority 81 on Morris Peterson. And Morris Peterson, see, that ain't any better because Mo Pete was from Michigan too. He went to State. So I'm trying to speak up for one homeboy. You done picked another homeboy. Mo Pete, yeah, he was from State. Wow. He killing Mo Pete. I believe the leagues merged in 76. That might have been the year Dr. J was in Philly because they sold Dr. J from the Nets. He was sold. So that could have been, because I was just going by when I was looking up Louis Dampier, who was the best three-point shooter in the ABA. And I was surprised. So his last season, the ABA last season might have been 76, 77. And the leagues merged maybe at the end of that year. Because Louis Dampier, Roger Brown Roger Brown won money from the NBA for blackballing him. I don't think Doug Moe was in that trial too. They all got cleared. Roger Brown, they let Doug Moe coach. Doug Moe coached, I want to say Doug Moe coached, I know he coached the Nuggets. He might have coached San Antonio too. But Doug Moe and Larry Brown were boys. And really all three of them, Roger Brown, Connie Hawkins, and Doug Moe got barred because they was going to go to the Knicks. In 1964, all three of them would have went to the Knicks because back then they had territorial picks and all three of them. So they barred them. So the rest of the league went in there and made sure those three got barred so they wouldn't go to the Knicks. And that's it. That's the reason why they got blackballed. Neither one had anything to do with gambling. Doug Moe got suspended and blackballed because he didn't tell Dean Smith that he was approached. Somebody came up to him and said, Doug, will you throw games? Doug didn't go for it. Then they came back and asked him, was you ever approached? And he's like, yeah, by the way, this mug is so-and-so. Kicks him out of Carolina, and then he gets barred because for not speaking up. There's this brother that went to New York University, and he was 7 foot, and he was caught in a gambling scandal. He actually got some cash. Matter of fact, these dudes was getting so much cash, they didn't know what to do with it. This dude had $10,000 in his mama's house. He only spent a little bit of it. It was like more cash than he knew what to do with and turned it in. I'd have never turned it in. Shoes make a huge difference. Yeah, there's a shoe that will give you an inch, and they're barred. People like to say the NBA is soft today, but back in the 70s, it was the same way. It started getting physical around the 80s, going into the 90s. I don't know, Lorenzo. There was a lot more fights in the 70s. Watch Jabbar knock out Kent Benson. Kent Benson catches Jabbar like that, and you see Jabbar bend over, and Jabbar just, pow! He breaks his hand, but he knocks Kent Benson out. It was a lot more fighting. Look at Kermit Washington when he knocks out Rudy Tomjanovich, breaks his face, and then he's pretty much blackballed. Didn't Kermit Washington just die? I think he just died or something. But he was blackballed. He went to prison. That's right. They caught him doing a scam. He was trying to get back in the league and coaching, and he did some kind of scam and went to prison in his 40s or 50s. So I don't know. The game was a lot more physical, a lot more fighting back then. It was all like fights was almost common. Fighting was almost like hockey somewhat back in the 70s and the 60s and 70s. What's up with the NBA sabotaging the Nets? Exactly. Well, you knew they was going to have some kind of shame with all three of them playing together. The bad boy Pistons became the face of it. Then going into the 90s, the Knicks started picking up with them. Well, think about what was they saying the other day about when the Celtics was losing, the Lakers blew them out the first two games, and then game three, they tackled Kurt Rambis. The Celtics, he's in the air, and they took his legs out from under him, and it became physical like that. So a little bit. When I played in Ohio the year I was coming out, you heard Kobe was Kobe and Ronnie Fields. Ronnie Fields was the dog. I got a cousin in Chicago, and he was telling me about Ronnie Fields too, and was showing me Ronnie Fields was the real deal. So yeah, Ronnie Fields was the real deal. That's why I just don't understand like the type of car accident that broke his neck. That was just one of the strange things. Ronnie Fields wasn't that tall either. He wasn't, I think 6'2", maybe 6'3". Wasn't that tall a cat, but yeah, he had the same kind of Kobe abilities. And remember, him and Garnett was on the same team, Chicago King. They was both on King. The physical meaning was better. Basketball is a technical sport, and the game is more technical now. Somewhat, yeah. It's the physicality. Again, they're trying to do without the big man. Like when the ABL put the 3-point shot in, they didn't put it in to take the place of big dudes. They put it in to kind of even it somewhat. And then when the ABA put it in 60, the first ABA season was 66, 67, or was it 65, 66? I want to say 66, 67. When they put it in, again, it wasn't the dominant thing. Again, I did the breakdown of Louis Dampier. His best year was his last year at the ABA, which I think was 76, 77. He shot 50%. And he played his whole career in the ABA under the 3-point shot. He was the best of it at the time. And so here's a guy, whole career, again, never shot better than 50. Matter of fact, did you guys catch last night? Last night, one team shot 70%. Who played last night? Golden State played the Mavs. Golden State might have shot 70% last night. One of the games I caught, they shot 70%. Impossible. I saw Jabbar bust because he elbowed him. Yeah, Jabbar broke his hand. He missed a couple weeks too. Rondo got some of the most eye-pleasing passes. He's my top 3 favorite. You like Rondo? Hustle. Hustle played. He's Hustle. Well, guys, this puts me over bunch of going. Oh, somebody wrote me back on. Yeah. Never underestimate home field advantage. True that. Brady just proved it. Oh, yes, he did. He did. I think this is Cheeto. Well, guys, I'm gonna have to go. As you know, I always end with Eshawn's rap. So I'm not a New York rapper or an LA gangbanger. I'm just an old school Detroit crack slinger. This has been the Chocolate Mountain Show. For all of you that watched me earlier, analyzing the football, thank you very much. Maybe we'll do a basketball game like that. What do you guys say? Should we break down a basketball game and do live basket manipulation breakdown? I think we should do that. I think we're going to pick a game and we're going to do a live breakdown of the games doing basket manipulation. I'm not going to be able to rewind back and forth because of copyright, but if we all can agree to pick a game that's the same time for everybody, which me being Central, and I get all the Timberwolves games, not the NBA package, but maybe a weekend or something, we'll find a game and let's all pick a game and where we all have the ability to go back and forth, and let's do that. And we can show the manipulation to each other. Well, thank you very much, everyone. I appreciate it. Next Warriors game. Yeah, they've been putting the Warriors on every day. Every week it's a national game for the Warriors. So they probably will be a team we'll break down. So thank you, everybody. Again, this has been the Chocolate Mountain Show. I am your host. 8 Wind is timeless. Till we meet again. Thank you.